and we are now re-recording. Thurgor, are you there?
I'm here.
All right, Charles. Charles lit up, so that's a good thing. And we have Wiggles, yes?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Can you guys rejoin the table, or do I need to restart the table?
Well, it's not showing. The table won't show up for me. I'm gonna exit this and get back in it and see if it'll show.
Yeah, it's not showing at all.
Okay, in that case, I probably need to... Well, you know what? We don't really need the table. I'm going to leave it. Don't worry about reconnecting the table, because we're almost done anyway. I think the only thing we have... And my phone can't figure out what I'm doing. Hang on. Let me... For those that don't know, I have the stream running on my... Not on my phone, but like I'm watching the stream on my phone, so I can stay abreast of what might be going on. So hopefully we are still good. Waiting for the time delay to show up on my phone. There we go. Okay. All right, so I think we're good. Hope we're good. Don't worry about reconnecting the table. If we need to make any dice rolls for any reason, we should have that dice rolling channel in Discord. I'm just going to leave this like this. The viewers. Correct me if I am wrong. I know I gave you numbers a few sessions ago, on how many guns of various types you got, and how many cases of ammo, which they're not going to pay you for the ammo. They're just going to secure it, because ammo can be reused for anything, more or less.
Right.
The grenades you'll be paid for. So what I need, and this is at 10,000 per weapon and 10,000 per case of grenade. I need numbers so we can figure out what the dollar value will be.
Okay, so as long as nobody has taken anything, there's 61 units of weapons or cases or however you want to look at it.
Okay, so does that include 5 rifles being taken out of that?
Nope. That's why I said that's the numbers without anything being taken out.
And you said 61, so that would take it down to 56. 5 golden rings and a partridge in a pear tree.
The vac suits that they're keeping, are they going to do the same thing for them as they do the weapons?
The vac suits are being confiscated because they are a little bit more up to modern standards, I guess you could say, or up to date. However, in a few weeks, Hellwig is going to receive a box with a note.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have 56 weapons and cases of grenades. So that's 560,000 on top of the 325. So let me double check my numbers, make sure I'm not getting crazy here. 8. So you are at 885,000 Libra total, is what I've got. You have 5 golden rings, 4 combat vac suits, 3 air tanks, 2 burns left, 1 pentapod. That's Wiggles in stream chat. Wiggles, fucking amazing, bro. Speaking of Frank.
Hi, I'm Frank.
During this, I don't want to call it negotiation. I don't know what to call it in lieu of that word. But what happens is Frank is given the offer to work with the British. And still checking my notes here to make sure I'm not missing this. I believe he is not taken away. It's not clear if he works with or for the British military or the British government, or maybe just the Beowulf portion of either. But for all intents and purposes, Frank is no longer associated with you guys.
What?
And it feels as though he does this mostly willingly. Like maybe there was a couple of things he wanted that he didn't get, but he got a lot of other things. That sort of deal.
Uh-huh.
Let me see. The French. Okay, let me back up. So you receive this monetary reward for all the equipment and the personnel. The British themselves are not really interested in contesting the salvage of a French ship now that the weaponry has been secured. The French will, however, make a bit of a stink about it. But ultimately, especially once some lawyers get involved, especially when those lawyers are backed by the University of Elysia and Iron Mike Tankerson, the French more or less back off. Begrudgingly, perhaps, but they back off. And it comes to find out that maybe it's more because it's an older, out-of-date style or class of ship than it is anything else.
I mean, like, also before we went in, I did do all the legal mumbo jumbo, witch dance to declare it as salvage because it was clearly abandoned and derelict.
Yeah. There's definitely been you guys definitely did some, and maybe the school and Tankerson have done some things since you guys left. But ultimately, what it boils down to is after about a month since your guys' return, the Durandal is considered fair and legit legal salvage by you and your crew with the support of Tankerson and his company as a financial backer, and the University of Elysia also as a financial backer. Grimaldi, you hear after a couple weeks, has oh, I'm sorry, I skipped a couple lines here. Let me you get the impression between the French and the British over the course of the next month that when it comes to any talk, any discussions, negotiations about the salvage of the ship itself, there is only one requirement that both governments are requesting or demanding. If you were to make any effort to actually physically recover the Durandal, you are effectively being mandated that any weaponry, any technology related to weaponry, any computer programming or software or hard drives of command systems, tactical systems, navigation systems, all of that needs to be surrendered. And that if you do so, should you decide at some point to actually do the physical salvage work, the ship, they will not contest it. They will simply write it off as lost, salvaged by independent party. For all intents and purposes, if you choose to, the Durandal is yours. If you give them all of the things that make that ship a warship. Does that make sense? Anybody have questions on that, player or in character?
Nope.
Okay. There is one final caveat in all of this. You've effectively been given a gag order by the French government. And the British are in support, not necessarily fond of, but they are in support of this gag order. Meaning that the details of this enterprise and the details of the Durandal and its demise will not be released in a public forum or, via the media, publications, interviews, any of that sort.
Okay.
Grimaldi's not gonna like that.
He is not. Because, as you learn a few weeks into the month or so after your return, Grimaldi begins working almost immediately on the book that he wanted to write. As soon as he gets back to his offices at the university, safely on British territory, he starts putting pen to paper and starts writing his book. Now, come to find out, because maybe you guys follow up with Grimaldi every now and again, just to check in with it, or maybe you see him because there's some other meeting or engagement that you guys have to go to in relation to what you guys have all gone through. You learn that in order to further motivate Grimaldi to remain quiet about this affair, the British are lobbying let me back up. The British are making moves to provide support to to Llewellyn Station. And it seems like they might be planning on making the base larger as part of a process by which to deal with the pentapods that are posted up on Grendel. Apparently, Grimaldi may be receiving a Thorez-class courier specifically to move people and equipment back and forth. As well as, of course, what sounds like several modules to be added to the station. And apparently even better equipment and a better setup so that the station can be run year-round, regardless of the weather outside.
Because it is frightful.
Yes, it is. That it is.
I-
But
I'm going to say, I mean, to, Hellwig's view, that he was very...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
He was very helpful. The pentapods were very helpful to get us back. I mean, short of the little freak out where we were shot
Where
by
they
the
tried
weird...
to kill you with all the little lizard rats?
Well, no, yeah, there's that, but there's also the whole being shot with the what do you
Screamer
call
footballs.
The
Yeah,
screamer
little...
football. That I will tell you. Well, we'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. Let me.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, the weird animal thingies and all that stuff in the planet. That's all the university, and they need to do more research there. So for Hellwig, it's like, oh, he's going to advocate that they were very helpful and they were useful. So let's not be afraid of them. Besides, they're trading partners for a lot of the colonies. So
yeah, and I think you get the feel that as you make this recommendation, and maybe you'll make it in a an official memo type or an official some sort of officialization to it.
Right.
I think ultimately you do get the feel that the British are certainly interested in at least the British posted here on Beowulf, if not necessarily the entire British Empire, United Kingdom, whatever the hell they're calling themselves at this point, for all of British space. But at least here on Beowulf, they're definitely looking into this as a potential, good ally, whether economically or maybe even militarily or both or some other. It definitely gets the feel of there's going to be a lot of good cross communication between the British here on Beowulf and the Pentapods at some point. Probably not for another year or two, but there's headway being made. And towards the end of that month, after your guys' return, and by this point, it's probably starting to settle down at this point, insofar as all of this hoopla about the salvage. So it's probably like getting on towards August. You have a brief moment. We don't need to role play this out because I'm trying to wrap this up and then have a brief, quote unquote after show, as I mentioned before we started. You have a brief moment or two with Tankerson. And he brings up the idea of, it might be a challenge and it's certainly going to be worth a lot of money, or a lot of money is going to be needed, but I think we can pull it off. If you guys wanted to, I think we can get the Durandal off the ground and make it space-worthy again. Definitely going to take time. What do you think?
So I have a quick question about one thing we didn't discuss exactly.
Sure, absolutely.
We talked about the warheads. I just assume that nuclear trigger assemblies go with those.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. Yeah,
absolutely.
But what was key as far as having us cash to put towards the recovery of the ship was getting compensated for the missile bodies, specifically the stutter warp drives that are in there. Okay. Those drives were worth $2.35 million a piece. That's 51.85 megalibres.
Megalibres.
Yeah.
So to make sure I'm understanding where you're going with this. Your argument is that was a tremendous amount of motivation to do this in the first place, was those stutter warp drives for which you presently have not received compensation for?
Right. I mean, that's the big payday. Everything else is chump change compared to
that's arguably
the worth
true.
of those stutter warps. Yeah.
I think in that light, we'll chalk that up to GM oversight. And here's what I will offer. What was the total number you came up with? 50-something million?
51.85 million.
Yeah. 51.85 million.
And what I did was I went to the engineer's guide.
And
I found, and we weren't real specific at first whether or not they were Rotage 1s and 2s, but the fact that they had nukes means that they were 2s.
Mm-hmm. I remember we had that conversation.
Yeah. So I looked up the drive output there, and then I punched it back into the calculator to calculate the drive size and cost and everything. And so, each one of those drives is 2.35 million.
I am trying to find something in my notes, and this might take a second or two. I know I have a very specific paragraph that I'm looking for. Not in that or not in that set. I have an answer to this. Just need to see a number.
And do we get to speak with the French that come to collect the bodies or anything? Is there any kind of ceremony for us to pass the dog tags over and all that kind of stuff? Because they should
let
be
me
thanking
hold
us.
hold that thought for a second. Let me answer the first question first.
Alrighty.
Okay. One thing, so I'll say this, and I might meander a little bit to get to the final answer, so bear with me here. I think what comes up is at some point you have a few meetings with some French, what's the word I'm looking for?
Diplomats.
No. Give me a second. I have the word. I'm trying to, there's like one word I need as a modifier, and I'm trying to figure out what it is. Give me just a second here.
The word is ass.
No. Shh, you're confusing me now. Starship engineer.
Okay.
I felt like there was another word and I just couldn't find it, so I'm gonna go with that. Anyway, you have a couple of different meetings with this engineer, and he is asking you a variety of questions, and it's not an interrogation; it's more of a feedback, interview, information finding series of questions of everybody that was involved on this expedition. Effectively, what the French are at this point trying to do. Think of it similar to an insurance representative trying to determine the value of what's left, with a look of like, what's the cost potential for extracting this thing from the bottom of this planet to get it back to spaceworthy. There's a lot of work that would have to be done, and some of the things that are mentioned is that there's a lot of cleanup that needs to be done, and there's a lot of repair that obviously needs to be done. It's going to cost, over the course of these conversations, you learn it's going to cost at least $100,000 just to get it off the ground, including cost of equipment and transporting, equipment up there. Another $500,000 to repair the ship, enough to get it off the ground in the first place. So, like, that's $600,000 right there. But once it's in space, it can then be flown to a starport shipyard where it can be repaired and made spaceworthy again. But that's where the cost starts getting astronomical, no pun intended. And that final number, looks like it's estimated somewhere in the 6 to 8 million range. Now, taking that number and countering it with the money that you would receive theoretically from the Stutter Warp missile components, which you said was something like 51.2 million.
8.5, yeah.
I rounded it off. No, you're right. Something close to 52 million.
Yes, okay, yeah.
I think what ultimately then happens between that engineering report and the value assessed of those missile components is that you are given just enough money to finance the extraction of this ship, the repairs, and the ability to make it space-worthy and make it a worthy vessel again, if you choose to go that route. If you choose not to go that route, a large number of monies, it almost came out of my mouth. A large value of money will be provided somewhere in the neighborhood of about 5 million. Roughly, plus or minus some math, roughly 10% of the original value of those components. And the main argument for it being such a reduction is, one, the French government is not keen on giving out extravagant amounts of money. Also, let's call it degradation or depreciation of the value of those components, because better components have probably been devised by this point. And I say that not in the Ritage 2 eventually gets replaced by the Ritage 3. I'm talking about the components themselves going from, 2 to 2.1 and then later to 2.12, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, and they're just old in general, so they have to be refurbished and other crap like that.
Yeah, I mean, we Charles, I think you get where I'm coming from to some extent with military upgrades, where at some point we have the M1, eventually the M1A1, but then there's like half a dozen different refits in between the M1A1 and the M1A1A1.
Yeah, the block A, the block B, the block C, the block C2.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think somewhere between all of that is where you are sitting at you have, as a group, I'm going to give you like a out of character option, is that you as a group will receive either 6 million Libra for those components, or effectively the extraction, the salvaging, the repairing, and the refitting of this Durandal is financed by various parties.
Well, that's Tankerson's choice there.
Well, Tankerson, in this conversation that you are having at towards the end of the month about whether or not to do this, Tankerson is looking at it as, I will support your decision to, set this plan in place where you guys will end up with a Durandal. If you want it, you're gonna have to work off what you owe on it. You're gonna have a ship with a mortgage, effectively, is what in game terms is what you'll have. But that mortgage is going to sit at about 5 million.
Well,
and that number, listen, that number is subject to change in your favor. I'm just giving it a ballpark at this point.
I'm gonna go look over it.
C2 is my port. Oh my God, Wiggles. I'm sorry, Charles.
Yeah, I'm gonna go look over at Wyatt and just go. Mortgage ship, fast ship with guns. We could.
You don't get guns.
No guns.
Remember,
no guns.
remember the condition of pulling this thing off Grendel was that all of the weapons, all the navigation programming, and a variety of other things would be stripped.
Okay.
You'd have to, and that's where part of that mortgage comes. Like, so, let's say somewhere along the way the numbers go down, but then the numbers go back up again because you have to pay for some of that stuff to be replaced with the commercial version.
Right. So I'm gonna look again. I'm just gonna look over at Wyatt and just go, here's your ship. Here's your chance. Your ship.
I would like to have a ship again. I miss trading.
I don't miss trading as the GM because now, once again, I have to go back to every time you guys are in a fucking port, I gotta come up with the shit that's available for you and how much it costs. But don't let me get in the way of that. Please, trade your little asses off.
Just make an Excel spreadsheet to generate it for you.
I know. I'm fucking with you, man.
Yeah. I'm good. If we want to go back to the ice planet, but let's and
no. Howard, you don't have to go back to the ice planet.
No.
I mean, you don't have any. All right, Howard, this will sound bad in general, but it's just an honest skill evaluation.
Right.
You're worthless for extracting a ship from the mud.
I'm sorry.
Elwig's gonna go. Yeah, you're not right. You're not wrong either. I can stand there with a gun and make sure that evil rat things don't come after us. But yeah,
I think. Oh God, I had a thought and it just disappeared as soon as I opened my mouth. I think. Oh, that was what I was saying. I think a lot of this work can also be contracted out to commercial entities to do a lot of like the extraction and repairs on the ground, and then
we just
getting into space.
We just go to Space Home Depot.
Yeah, grab a bunch of guys.
Grab a bunch of guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
You tell me. Yeah, I was gonna say Howard's just gonna go. You tell me what you want to do. I'll tag along because.
So for Wyatt would say when we had to remodel the interior of the ship to a great amount anyway, as part and parcel to rebuilding it. So that means we also this is to me is a really cheap way to get a mostly custom made ship.
Yeah, for the viewers, I am putting the floor plan of the Durandal on I'm putting the Durandal on the screen here so people can see it. I've also got to deal with some bugginess because I tried to put it on top of other shit and now it's getting weird. Fuck, I just lost the other one. Anyway, clearly we are not having technical difficulties. I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, so if you're looking on the stream, player or for the viewer's sake, you see the current floor plan that was on there. We can make some choices, but I think ultimately, you can. For instance, over on level 2, it looks like there's some open bay beds shit here, where the hand is, that you're probably going to want to change it into something else. Like you can just rip that shit out and have an open area or maybe a larger cargo area, something like that. But we can talk more about that offline after we go on our break, between this session and the next one. And again, just for clarity's sake, we don't have to hammer this out tonight. Also, we don't even have to extract the Durandal if you guys don't want to. If you'd rather go with a different ship design, I'm just presenting this to you because we've spent the last dozen episodes moving to this point. So I figured if nothing else, this would make for a nice reward or nice segue into the next section of the story, after the new year. Just something to throw out there for you guys to figure out what you want. I personally, if I were in y'all's position, this is definitely a good idea. One of the major drawbacks I have right off the top is that this ship does not have artificial gravity generation. So
yeah, that sucks.
So
No,
you're spending a lot of time floating in space. Wyatt is okay with that.
As long as it has the other amenities to at least balance out a 0 comfort level, that's not too bad. But inevitably, your no gravity ships wind up being negative in the comfort level.
You've got some staterooms that are meant for I believe double occupancy. We can always adjust that because we don't need the capacity to carry 57,000 people.
Right.
So again, that's some details that we can work out in between sessions. Excuse me. I just wanted to give you something of a visual representation of what the ship looks like. I just wanted to clarify though, is this a ship you guys want to pursue? Generic statement, the strings that come attached to it, we can hash out later.
Yeah.
I mean, both of the ships
all
we
right
looked
with it.
at have their pluses for sure. I'll go with whatever the group wants to go with.
Okay, Charles says yes. Thurgor is abstaining in a positive manner. Wiggles, what do you say?
Yeah, sure, why not?
Okay. All right. Let me get back to my notes. Make sure I'm not missing anything. So Tankerson looked at you guys and he says, well, I may or may not have to take out a loan for this, but I'm sure over the next few weeks, as we start this endeavor of recovering this ship, we can work out the details of what you guys will owe me. But, to be fair and to be clear, you guys will owe me. No big deal. We'll figure it out, and you guys will get your normal pay and all that. But your normal pay, you guys just pulled in something like $2 million here. I think it'll be fine.
Haven't we owed you for a while now for a bunch of stuff?
I don't think so.
I feel like Tankerson was probably smirking a little bit when you say that.
Yeah.
And he's just like, glad to know we're on the same page, Fritz. I almost said Charles. I'm glad, Fritz, that we're on more or less the same page here.
I'm just, you put us up. I am not a dumb man. I've been around.
Fritz,
normally.
If you were a dumb man, you wouldn't be working for me at the position you're working at. Working for me.
I ain't a smart man.
Jenny.
Right?
All right. Do you guys have anything else in character / in the game that you want to discuss? Or shall we move on to spend the next 10 or 15 minutes doing some quote-unquote after show type stuff for the last several episodes?
What about our pay now that we're back?
I will figure that shit out and let you know next session.
Okay. Alrighty.
Hopefully, if I remember. We all know I have a shitty memory.
So my next question is,
yeah,
what are we gonna do with all that downtime? I mean,
that is a great question.
Tankerson wants, right?
That is a great question for you guys to figure out, because I think one of the first things I'm going to do in the next episode, as we at this point can probably safely say we're transitioning into the after show. I think one of the first things I'm going to do, like first or second thing we'll do the next time we meet up, is have a recap of this last several episodes to kind of catch everybody up that may not be there. And then I'm going to effectively give you guys something like a month or two and figure out what you're going to do with that time as you transition from, hey, we just got back from Grendel with this busted ass ship information, to, hey, we're getting ready to send a bunch of people out to go get that busted ass ship on Grendel. Because the other side of all of this too is it's going to take probably, I'm just going to ballpark it right now, probably 6 months to make that thing fly again and be sound of structure.
Okay.
But that's all stuff I can figure out during the break, as it were. Camera wants to fall over. What other questions? I'm sure, because Thurgar always has questions for me. What other questions do you have?
Nothing. What I'm gonna do with that time depends on if
You
we're
want
gonna
to
get
go hunt
bonus.
some Beowulf Dragon Bat, don't you?
Not until I build my robot.
Jesus Christ.
So yeah, I'm gonna need money.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are.
It's not
I'm
a
gonna
very
do this.
expensive robot, but still. Yeah.
I'm gonna do this, by the way. I want all y'all to take note. All three of you, as well as your NPCs, because this would apply to them as well. Effectively, everybody gets 1 million Libra. Let's call that your grand total split of shares. Let's just say there's an awful lot of money involved from all of the stuff that you recovered. So the three of you, your various NPC crew, all receive 1 million Libra. It is, Charles, one of the things you may want to look at doing when we come back in a couple weeks is maybe having a sit down with Aiello and Spearman about financial security and smart financial choices. Because those fuckers are going to blow it all in 6 weeks or less.
I suspect 6 hours. That's what the pool starts with. The 2300 version of Space Hooters.
Yeah. Or worse.
If you know what I mean.
Or worse.
Or worse. Yeah. So that'll probably be me and Blaine's trying to figure that out, and then maybe even just trying to go and source some stuff to like better outfit our tactical team, so we're not screwed up.
Yeah, and also keep in mind with this plethora of money you guys have, that you also have, for all intents and purposes, by the time the work is done, a fully functional but toothless starship. So you may want to think about some of the things that need to get added to it to make it a little bit more a place like home in the stars. In addition to that money, you don't have to have the answer right now, but I want you to write this down or take note. You will increase one characteristic by 1, and you may increase one. Let me think about this for a second, because I didn't flesh this out, so bear with me. For your skills, you may choose 2 skills that are level 3 or lower, and increase both of them by 1, or increase any skill by 2 to a maximum of 5. I don't think anybody's going to actually hit 5 without some hard work. Does any of those numbers I just spat out seem crazy to anybody?
Nope.
That seems fine.
Yep.
And we will call that your character progress reward.
All right, let's write that down in the Discord before most of us forget.
Yeah, I'm going to do that right now, in fact.
So the money that we got for the mission itself, the 1 million libras.
Yep, 1 million.
How many?
I'm writing this down right now. Or I'm sending in our chat Discord. So 1 million Libra per character, player, non-player. You get +1 to a characteristic. And you guys know what I'm talking about, like strength, dexterity, etc., right?
Yeah.
To include even arguably social, because maybe this enterprise has made you guys a little bit more well-known, if necessary. 2 skills increased by 1 up to level... What did I say? 3? I feel like I said 3.
Yeah, 3 or lower.
3
+1 and
or 1 skill increased by 2 up to level 5. I spelled level wrong. Okay. And I think that'll do it for character rewards, unless I'm missing something that I'm just stupid and not thinking of right now.
So
because there's also a bunch of weapons and armored vac suits and things like that, other than what you can now spend a bunch of money on if you wanted to.
Right.
Not to mention, there's also you guys can write down Commander Jonathan Frakes, British Royal Navy, as a contact, as a group.
Ooh.
And let's argue that, and I will say that comes
That's
out...
something our writer made up.
I'm sorry?
That's something the writer made up.
What did he broke up a little bit there. Anybody else catch what he said?
Okay. Something a writer made up.
Commander Jonathan Frakes?
Yeah.
Frakes? This is gonna be dumb. Do you know who Jonathan Frakes is?
Yeah. He's the host of believe it or not, Fact or Fiction.
Yes, where if you slow it down by 1/4, he sounds drunk as shit.
He's not wrong there.
That shit was hilarious. I'm getting way off track though. Commander Jonathan Frakes is, of course, the commander of the HMS Mayweather, or HMS Charles Mayweather. And we can argue that, during your escorted flight back, he brought you guys over to his ship for dinner one night as a courtesy, get to know you guys a little bit better thing. And maybe some of the way you guys handled some of the business, he was impressed by your, professionalism / candor / whatever. So he's kept in touch with you guys and tried to support your cause, as the case may be, over the several weeks since your return to Beowulf. Now you guys have a contact in the British Royal Space Navy, I believe is what it's called.
Nice.
And you also, sometime in the next 6 to 8 months, will have your own starship. What the hell was that?
Wiggles.
And I may speed that up a little bit just to give you guys the actual opportunity to use said starship. Anything else? What else do we want to talk about out of character wise? Let's open this topic. In fact, let's do this. We're gonna have an extended outro session. We'll have a moment for everybody to say something in regards to this episode as well as the last several. And then once everybody gets through that, we spend about 10 to 15 minutes, and then we will do our actual final thoughts for the night. How's that sound? Because I have no more content scripted or anything, so. Charles, thoughts on this episode and or the last several, or this arc for that matter, the Beowulf thing?
The Beowulf arc, I think it was kind of fun. Being on a foreign planet, meeting our first true quote unquote alien that wasn't trying to mess with us.
Not like the alien planet that tried to take you guys out mentally.
Yes, exactly.
Nagging planet. Planet.
Yeah. I think the whole setup was kind of fun. I think realistically, at least for Hellwig, now that he's back at the more earthy-like planet, he's kind of happy and content. When he hears about trying to go back to Beowulf, it's probably not a pleasant thought.
You mean going back to Grendel?
Yeah, going back to Grendel. Yeah, it's not a pleasant thought, but if he needs to because everyone else wants to, he's like, well, here we go again. And I think
Let
on
me
a
ask
whole,
this question, and I'll ask this
yeah,
not just to Hellwig, but to all
yeah.
three characters or all three player characters. When the opportunity comes in a couple months for the crew to return to Grendel, because now the Durandal is about to actually go into orbit. Like, they've done all the work on the ground that they can. It's now time to put this thing into space to see if it's going to be space worthy and to get it to an actual starport. Would any of you all, and you don't all have to go if you don't want to or whatever, but like individually, would you guys want to be there for that moment, knowing that everything seems to be moving towards you guys taking control of this ship for yourself?
At least for me, as a player, I think it's one of those. It'd be fun, but I don't think I need it to like see it lift off because I've seen spaceships lift off before. So let's just
Let's wait until it's fully functioning and space worthy 100% before I get there for its first launch.
Yeah,
That's what I'm hearing.
that whole space popping safety, the safety videos kind of just make him go, ugh.
Yeah, that makes sense. Wiggles?
I mean,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Charles. I didn't mean to cut you off right there.
I'm gonna say, even though I have like a vac suit training and a level of 1, so I kind of know my way around vac suits.
Yeah.
Still, he's never really been in space
Yeah.
a lot, so it's like, yeah.
Wiggles and or Thurgor, would your characters want to be there when the Durandal is lifted off the surface of Grendel?
I definitely think I would probably be there helping to do the work and to also help supervise it along with his wife.
I think that would make sense. I think both Wyatts would definitely want to be there. Not specifically for all right, this is the day, and it's going to lift off, but I think more of a supervisory / just make sure everything works right and oversee the work. That makes sense. Thurgor, what about Milligan?
Milligan doesn't particularly care for Grendel. They're going to hire some construction company, I guess, to dig the thing out.
Right.
I guess they're going to hire some kind of engineering company to make the ship at least able to lift off.
Shipwright. A shipwright. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah. Or I'm sorry. The word literally just came to mind. Thurgor, I'm sorry. I know I'm horrible. Right. I interrupt all the time, and I apologize. A shipwright was the word I was looking for earlier. Please continue. Milligan probably wouldn't be there, is what I'm hearing.
If Tankerson tells us to be there, I'll be there. But if the people that he's hired are capable of digging this thing out, launching it, getting it to the starport, I don't see us needing to be involved, and we can be doing other work for Tankerson in the meantime.
Okay. Would you be watching remote?
Oh, I'm sure I'd watch the feed or whatever. Yeah. Yeah. But I don't see the need unless I'm going to be the one piloting it. I mean, I don't want to lift that thing off of Grendel myself, really. But if that falls to me, it falls to me, and I'll do what I got to do, I guess. But if they got somebody else to lift it off of there, there's no sense in wasting all that money sending another shuttle out there full of people and
I hear you. Wiggles. I'm sorry. Let me go back to Charles. Charles, any other thoughts, comments regarding this arc or this episode?
No. I think it was kind of fun. My only comment would be that the timeline wise and trying to figure out our pathways, especially on the way out. On the driving was a little interesting, and to be perfectly honest with you, I think it was, at least in the initial pathway out on the driving out. I think we already talked about this one time before, but it didn't. It like we're rolling dice and we didn't really know what a good or bad was going to do for us. So kind of taking some risks, but then on the way back home when we were going through the tunnel. I think the narrative side, when you added some of the things of like, hey, you turn the lights on and there's like a whole bunch of creepy rat things running around, was like, yep, nope, I'm driving and I'm not looking outside again. I'm just looking straight ahead.
Straight ahead, and
if
we're
I
not
don't,
stopping.
we're not stopping. And realistically, it's like if I don't see them, they don't see me. They don't exist.
Yeah. No. I will say this. When I first prepped for the drive out, it didn't really click in my head that sequence, we'll say, of the rolling to cover so much ground and what would happen, etc. It didn't click in my head how actually derailing that could become very quickly just because of a couple of bad rolls. I feel like, especially once Wiggles pointed it out, because he was the one that was most vocal about it, and I'm not trying to throw him out there either. I mean, that's just what it was. He was the one that was most vocal, and when he pointed it out, and I saw what he was getting at, I was like, yeah, no, you know what? You're absolutely right. And I refined it for the next two segments where that came up: the drive to the ship, and then the drive from the pentapods back to Llewellyn. And I made those more narrative and event focused, as opposed to just keep rolling until something either happens or you get there. Because that could have been incredibly wide open unnecessarily. Not to mention potentially very dangerous or deadly if based strictly on rolls. And I don't know what the intent was with the author that wrote it in regard to how I did it. And maybe I misunderstood something in my prep, and maybe I misconstrued something. Flipped one thing the wrong way somewhere and screwed it up for the rest, and missed the point. I don't know, but I think ultimately when we pulled it out, and by the time we made that third drive, we got it under control, and I think it made for a half decent story. And we got there, got back to Llewellyn, and we shot some people.
Yep.
Anything else, or shall I move on?
Move on.
All right, Wiggles, it's your turn. Thoughts on tonight and or the last several episodes, the Beowulf arc? If you're trying to talk, you're muted. Oh, there you go.
So the overland passage thing just was total bullshit. That was just stupid fucking OSR design.
Tell us how you feel.
Yeah, OSR is fucking stupid crap. It's like, no, it's awful. And then as a community, they seem to keep having fascist game designer problems. What's up with that?
I have no idea, and I have no control over it, and I can't really do a whole lot about it except not buy their products, which may or may not work and may or not be conducive to me having good content.
Oh my gosh, Gary Gygax's kid got actually a hold of the TSR trademark, and he released a game. No. He released a preview of a game, and it had a lot of like racial biotroops in it. And like the
it's the whole new version of Star Frontiers, and it was somebody he worked with like let me just put it this way: he liked a little Austrian who later.
I'm not laughing at the message. I'm laughing at the description. The little Austrian.
Yeah, no, it's not good. Not good.
That sounds horrible. Let's try to slide off of that a little bit and onto something a little bit more.
You didn't tell me to tell how I feel. I was telling you how I feel.
No, I hear you. I did. I realized now maybe I should have just kept my mouth shut.
You opened the door.
I did. Wiggles, please talk to us about some other aspects that you may or may not have enjoyed regarding all of Beowulf and Grendel and whatever.
I generally I try not to hold on to any like complaints or good or bad things. So any kind of issues I had, I've already brought up.
Okay. Fair enough.
That overland travel thing. Oh my god! Here, take the shortest route. Oh no! By the way, it's a giant snake inside thing that's gonna eat you. It's like, why?
Oh, I completely forgot about that. That whole is it a snake? Is it the space worm?
I didn't dig too much into that. I just kind of for lack of a better way to phrase it, I prepped what the notes said in the original publication. And what I recall now, a few weeks later, effectively, it was some sort of I don't know if there was an actual worm snake sort of thing, or if maybe the archway's ribs that you saw were actually constructed. And I think the reason why it was more likely to be constructed was because of the very specific and repeating exact distances between one set of ribs and the next. You know, the 54.8 meters or whatever the number was. Like, it literally went down to, I believe, the hundredths digit. So points XX meters. And the fact that it was the exact same distance from one to the next several times leads me to believe that it was constructed by somebody else. But it didn't explain anything. It didn't go into why or how it was. It just was like, it is this way. Whether they meant for me as the GM to create my own background, it didn't specifically state that. So I just left it there to be a unanswered mystery for you guys to be distracted by. It did in the rules give the option if you wanted to do some sort of, like, I'm going to say metallurgical survey sort of thing, you know, go out, chip off a piece of metal or whatever the rib was made out of and try to figure out what the composition of it was. It was going to be some sort of, I believe some sort of metal, or ore-ish, but the fact that it wasn't entirely organic was the big thing there. But maybe, and also I do have to say this. So this was the Grendel saga, of which there were 3 books published. We have only done 2 of them. We are not going to do the third one because the third one gets, from what I have looked through to start coming up with a plan in order to prep it versus our story, it gets pretty violent. And I didn't really want to do all that. The short version is, at some point, there is a section of pentapods that decide to make war on Grendel and or Beowulf. And I was like, nope, not doing it. Doesn't fit our story. We already have enough antagonists as it is.
Is it me? Am I the antagonist?
No, the Empire of Mankind and eventually some black-shelled lobster people-like things.
And then the Black Watch.
Well, the Black Watch was a local group that, in any Traveler 2300 setting, should have already existed. They are a subset or a smaller group of Provolution, which is a terrorist organization invested in the rapid evolution and melding of human and technology. I believe is the very short answer to that. But Provolution is listed in the Traveler books as a terrorist antagonist. But adding this other pentapod nation into the mix as potential bad guys for an entire adventure, which for us would have taken a series of episodes to conclude, I was like, no, I think we've got enough right here. For what we're doing, especially when you look at the first part, going up and rescuing the people from Llewellyn, and then going to the second part, figuring out more about this crashed ship, it really fits our story of, we used to work for the Federation of United Planets, whatever the fuck it is, United Federation of Planets, Star Trek. You know, we used to work for Star Trek, but we made them angry and they got rid of us, and we need our own ship in order to continue the story. Oh, here's several episodes of us trying to get to the ship, and now that we finally got to the ship, it's busted up, and we're going to try to fix it and make it our ship. That's a better story in my mind. It definitely gives a little bit more character to, well, the characters. In my opinion. Wiggles, did you have anything else? I totally derailed a little bit there.
No, I'm alright.
I ramble a lot, and I apologize. You sure?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thurgor, I've heard you trying not to cough openly loudly on the mic. Are you good enough to provide some answers of your own?
Some answers?
No, let me rephrase that. Provide some feedback of your own, is what I meant to say.
Sure.
Well,
so
what you got for this episode and or the last several?
Well, I'm just going to speak in generalities at this point,
Sure.
covering everything. I think it was, well put together, well thought out. I think we all performed admirably, even those that got shot because they wouldn't duck.
No. I ducked too slow.
That's yeah. He literally.
Same difference.
I think in that combat scene, he literally indicated that
Yeah.
he was. Yeah, I tried to duck. I just wasn't fast enough, and therefore I got shot.
So perhaps maybe we should rely on some other combatants.
Like robotic.
Well,
perhaps so. Yeah.
That'll remind our fearless XO that he needs to buy some armor for himself for next time.
Or better armor.
Yeah.
Please continue, Thurgar, before we all derail here.
I mean, I'm glad we're at the point that we are at this point, and we don't necessarily have to go back to Grendel. That's a plus. I'm looking forward to see what we're going to do with all the downtime. Whether that means just sticking around Beowulf for that period of time, or if he's going to send us off to do some other stuff in the meantime, and we're going to come back later and collect our ship.
On that note,
whatnot.
really quick, just so I don't forget, at your guys' leisure, over the next 2 weeks, send me a message indicating whether or not your character would like to go elsewhere on Beowulf, or even leave the Queen Alice star system to another star system to return later on a mission or errand or whatever for Tankerson, and I will attempt to incorporate that into my prep for the next episode, which will take place after the new year.
Yeah, the way I see it, that's all part of the story. So if that's something he wants to do, we're employees, and that's what we're going to do. So.
Yeah, because that's definitely something I've been thinking about. Is like once this arc ended, and as we go into whatever the next arc may be, Tankerson, I feel like we definitely need to have at least something of Tankerson saying, "Hey, I need you guys to go the next star system over and pick some shit up and come back." Because remember, Tankerson also has his own Thorez courier that he uses as part of his job that will transfer his product of sports memorabilia and whatnot to local distributors in other systems. So perhaps you will accompany that crew on a mission, or they will take you to the next system and you will then have to figure out how to get back. Or something.
Okay.
I don't know. I haven't figured out anything. It's just different ideas I've had. Anyways, Thurber, please, whatever else you have to offer.
Other than that, I'm looking forward into crunching some robots.
I bet you are. For those that don't know, Thurgor has been in and out of the Traveler 2300 Discord, although lately he hasn't been because, as I mentioned prior, he's been a sick boy lately. He has been in there asking questions and having some lively conversations with some of the other Traveler 2300 aficionados, especially in regards to first ships and then lately robots. Milligan, I'm sorry, Thurgor, you got anything else?
No, that's it.
All right, we're it's like 10 after 10, so let's go ahead and do a final round of final thoughts for the year, because this is our last stream of Second Star for the year 2023. The next session streamed will be probably the first week of January, so I'm thinking that is the 3rd of January. If it's not the 3rd, it will be the following week. Unless something else comes up. But, sometimes we try to meet every week, but sometimes things come up. Like Thurgor gets sick, or Thurgor gets sick again. I'm sorry. Let me stop fucking with you. On that note, Charles, final thoughts for anything. Close out.
My final thought is it's cold outside. Let's find a hot tub and let's relax.
Sounds like a plan. Wiggles, final thoughts, my friend.
I'm bad at Google Sheets.
Well, you know what? At the beginning of the episode, we had the question of whether it was the Google Sheets that sucked or if it was you that sucked, or possibly if both. I'm glad that at the end of the episode, we have discovered the answer. And I'm sorry that it's you that sucks. Thurgor, what do you got, my friend?
I think I'm done.
You're done. I don't blame you. You made it 3+ hours feeling like absolute trash, I'm sure. Get out of here. Go get some rest.
I only stopped one extra time to throw up. Y'all just didn't notice.
I'm I noticed you muted yourself for a little
Yeah.
bit there, and I wasn't sure why, and I wasn't gonna ask.
Yeah.
Please go get some goddamn rest, dude.
No problem.
And for the rest
what
of
I've been-
you, this is, as I mentioned previously, this is the last stream the last second star stream for the year. And when we return in a couple weeks, it'll be a whole new year, and it will be probably a few months in game before we see the crew again. It'll probably be like August, maybe September of 2297. It may be even longer. I don't know. We'll see what I come up with when I sit down and put these crazy thoughts of mine on a piece of paper and then later type it up. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed the show. I do apologize for that brief technical delay we had right in the last hour. Or almost exactly 1 hour ago, in fact. Yeah. Thanks for hanging out and thanks for enjoying the show. As far as streams coming up over the next couple weeks, in fact, I don't think we're actually streaming anything until the new year. Because Christmas is Monday, like 4 or 5 days from now. So Solasta will not be streamed. Solasta will also not be streamed on New Year's Day. And there are no Greyland Trios League matches scheduled over the next 2 weeks because of, well, the holidays. So, take this time, hang out with family and friends, do what it is that we do for the holidays, and enjoy yourselves, and be safe, because this world is a dark and crazy place. And we must do what we must do for you and yours and me and mine, etc., etc. At this point, I'm starting to ramble, so I'm just going to get out of here. Thanks for hanging out, my friends. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider very strongly the whole like, subscribe, etc., all those other buttons. For me personally, I would really like it if you could come on down to the Discord and chat with us and talk shit with us and throw memes at each other, because that's the best part of this community, I think. And the link for that Discord is down in the description below. So check it out. All right, my friends. Thanks for everything, and we will catch you next time. Next year. Happy holidays.